Hi everyone, in this video I'll be talking about how can you become the trillion-dollar team player. This video was inspired by the takeaways from the book The Trillion-Dollar Coach: The Leadership Playbook of Silicon Valley's. Now Bill Campbell is a mentor to many successful Silicon Valley leaders, including Steve Jobs and Larry Page. This book was written to provide a guide for managers and leaders seeking to build strong, cohesive organizations and foster personal growth in their team. This triggered me to ask the question, how can you become the kind of team player that professional leaders would die to have in their team? This book talks about the four traits that build a high impact team player in today's corporate culture. So, the first trait is to be smart. Being smart doesn't mean graduating from a prestigious university with a fancy degree, but it means that you should think about how can you expand your knowledge base as a person, and that means you don't stick to reading content only about your specialty or the things that you do. It's advisable to read books, articles, and content from other industries. And what you're essentially doing is you're looking for patterns and solutions that have been applied in those fields and try to analyze and say that how can the things I learned from other industries be applied to what I am doing right now. The reason why you want to do that is because you want to constantly be the person that's constantly innovative, forward thinking, and the only way you can do this is to just leverage on what is working best in other industries. Another thing that you can do to become a smarter person is to actually document your learning. Something I learned from a friend, he mentioned that he would keep a personal logbook or where he would actually write down the things he learned at work. And keeping a personal learning log is where you note new concepts, connections that you made at work, and how you might apply them. The reason why you do that is because when you get into the habit of documenting the things that you learned, after a period of time, you start to notice more opportunities where you can learn new things. You start to figure out like what are the things you learn right now that could potentially serve you in the future. Now, the second trait, hard work. Now, in some organizations where they're highly innovative, they tend to give employees a lot of autonomy and ownership over their work. But with the autonomy also comes with a high level expectation where employees need to work hard to deliver the project within the timeline and to take pride in their work. So places like this is where there's less micromanagement. So I think the challenge here is for employees to start to think if they want to work on more challenging, impactful projects that are very good for their career and resume. The challenge is how do you demonstrate that you already have the skills or the experience or even the fortitude to actually take on these larger projects. Some of the suggestions I came across was you should start to build a portfolio that has gone beyond the things that you do at work. For example, you should have tangible examples of projects you have taken from concept to completion, especially those that are outside your formal job description. For example, it could be open source contributions, side project, a volunteer initiative, or even a detailed analysis of a complex problem you tackle. Why you want to do this is because you want to demonstrate to the company that you work for that you're able to deliver impact and that you have initiative as a person. Whenever you're coming across something that you don't know already, they're willing to put in the time to study something, make it work, try, experiment, fail, and also end of the day, take something from concept to completion. And this portfolio essentially is to showcase your drive, your problem solving ability, your capacity to work independently on your own. And that I think is much more persuasive than a resume. So this was a tip I actually got from a career talk I attended previously, where the guy actually would map out his portfolio and he said, you should totally curate your portfolio to show the things you have done. And personally, for me, I work as a performance marketer, I run digital ad campaigns. And I will always highlight this in my interviews with prospective companies that I also edit videos and put them on YouTube. I always noticed that prospective employees always were interested in the things I did outside of work. And anything that had to do with marketing, whether it was photography, video editing, writing, this was something that they always felt that contributed to the end goal, which is how to become a better marketer. Now, the third trait highlighted in this book is having high integrity. In general, we think of high integrity as something that leaders should demonstrate to the followers in the organization, where we tend to think best case scenario is the leader openly acknowledges their own mistakes and take responsibility, where they foster a culture where honesty is valued. But I think from a individual perspective is that instead of waiting for people to demonstrate how we should practice integrity, I think it's more important that we develop our own personal integrity playbook where you yourself define what's your non negotiable ethical boundaries and decision making filters before you're in a tough spot. Rather than let situations happen and then you're stuck and having to decide, like, what do I do? And sometimes you feel like you're being pressured unnecessarily to do certain things that you don't agree with. Now, the fourth trait is a team player, and that also means that you have a collaborative spirit and company first mentality. Now, this seems like the most obvious trait so far in this video, but organizations are more intentional about trying to find people that operate with a collaborative mindset and humility, because that would mean that they are naturally inclined to work well with others. And sometimes, how companies also try to make that happen is by having open office layouts where people can use multiple different meeting rooms, where they can jump into easier discussions with people from different teams. And this is to encourage a lot of informal interactions between people of different teams rather than teams sitting by themselves in groups per se. And that also means that with office layouts and flatter hierarchies itself, many companies are striving for flatter structures to increase direct communication, break down silos among people. How we as individuals and employees can try to develop more of a team play attitude is, instead of waiting for a task to be assigned, sometimes we can take the initiative if we spot problems or we spot inefficiencies within our scope, within our team. We can highlight that and cascade that upwards to our team, for example, and have a discussion on how can we take certain solutions or take initiatives to address them. Whenever you're operating with a team play mentality, it's not just doing your work and doing it well. Perhaps it's also to give the added value to the team by saying that if you spot something that's not working well or things can be improved, it's important to actually speak up and say it. So that way, all of us can benefit from shared perspective, and also to become more proactive. Because places where they do less of micromanagement, your ability to spot problems and contribute without constant direction is an added value to the team.